Yeah, that's right, everybody. It's another episode of Nothing But Netflix here on RHAP. I am Josh Wigler, once again, joined here by the star, the Carrie Bradshaw, if you will, of Nothing But Netflix, Chappell. Surprise! It's
Hey.
Sex and the City time.
Yes, and I don't know. I've always been told by people who know what this show is. They're always like, "You're such a Samantha," but then I watched the episode. I was like, "Am I? Is that what I give?" And then you called me the Carrie, and I was like, "Am I?" I feel like this is what the allure of the show was. For years, people were just like, "Am I the Miranda? Am I the Charlotte? Am I all these other people? Am I Capote? I might be Capote. Who am I, Josh? I
Who
don't
are
know."
you, Chappell? And why are we doing this when last week at the end of Three Body Problem, we said we'd be doing the magic prank show? Well, that's the prank. The magic trick is instead,
we got you.
we're talking Sex and the City. Why are we talking about an HBO show on Netflix is a great question. There's a lot of HBO shows that are suddenly on Netflix and have been over the last few months. And Sex and the City is the latest to drop in its entirety on April Fools. So like it could have felt like Chappell, like a really great April Fools joke if Netflix posted the lead image of Sex and the City and you click it and then it's what, like just Three Body Problem, like surprise.
Yeah,
We
magic
tricked you into
prank
watching our
show.
show. Yeah.
Right, we get Rick rolled or something like that.
Yeah.
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 That would be topical for this time period, right? Sex in the City is right around the time when people started getting Rick rolled.
Yeah, I think that's right. Sex and the City is around the time that a lot is going on. And I've seen Sex and the City many times. Chappell, you have not seen any Sex in the City. Zero sexes in the city for Chappell. So we have to even the tides and we have to bring in somebody who can speak with some authority on the subject. So here is somebody that I've enjoyed Sex in the City with many times over the course of my life.
Josh, please.
How dare you?
What? No, we watched the show a ton together.
That's not what you said. That is not what you said.
I said I've enjoyed Sex and the City with many times in my life. And it's true. We've watched the whole show so many times together. It's my wife, Emily Fox. Emily.
Hello, guys.
Was that too far?
It was a little blue.
Yeah,
it was a little bloom.
There's a little bit of bloom there. But
listen, post-show recaps is over, but my Mike Bloom era is just getting started.
Oh God, I hope not. Keep it together, Wigler.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have Fox on the podcast this week to talk Sex and the City through with us. Emily, you have seen Sex and the City a number of times with and without me.
I have, and I didn't really watch it. I watched it on and off when I was a teenager, like when I was babysitting next door for the kids that I used to watch like once a week because they had HBO. Of course,
they were asleep, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This
you
was
weren't
like
showing this to them.
No, and I like didn't even understand what was going on anyway. Then I think it was syndicated on E for a long time, so it was edited for cable TV, so you really couldn't see a lot of what was going on. So I sort of watched the Cliff's Notes version of it, and then finally we sat down and did a full rewatch of it, start to finish. I don't know, maybe like a year and a half ago now.
Like 2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, I've watched all 3 movies, or no, all 2 movies, and then
the new show is
and the new show
a movie almost.
Sure is.
Yeah,
we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about episode 1, the pilot.
Yes. All we did, folks, we did is make Chappell watch the first episode of Sex and the City. Somehow, Chappell, you are like Keanu Reeves in The Matrix in that you dodged Sex and the City all the way up until your redacted birthday this past week. But for your birthday this past week, happy belated, Chappell, we forced you to watch Sex and the City season 1, episode 1, titled Sex and the City.
Yeah. So I've officially seen Sex and the City. I did it. I'm done. I
You're
did
done.
it. I watched it. Watched it one time. I might watch it again in its entirety. Sex and the City, just episode 1. I've known this show exists my entire life. This show is like pretty much since I could watch television alone. It's been like on, and it never occurred to me to actually watch it. It felt like when I first saw that it was a show, I was like a wee lad. So I felt like, oh, Sex in the City. This is scandalous. I don't need to watch this. There's going to be like sex and stuff. Like that's not for kids' eyes. And then as I got older, I was like, I mean, it's like on regular TV. It can't be that bad. And
Mhm.
but then it just felt like this is a show for the women. And so I was like, I'm not gonna ever see it. It's about the women. It's for the women, told from a women's perspective. I was like, this ain't for me. But I got older and everyone was still talking about we're still talking about Sex in the City. And then it was a movie. Then and Just Like That. Is that the show? Just Like That shows up. And I'm like, am I supposed to watch Sex in the City? There's just certain white shows that just went right over my head.
This is one of them.
Yeah, that's fair.
Seinfeld, there's so many of them, but man, it felt weird going back and watching what felt like a time capsule of television that I ignored.
Yeah.
Fox. It's exactly a time capsule.
25 years since this episode came out. 25 years the world has known who and what a Carrie Bradshaw, what a Miranda Hobbs is, who is a Samantha Jones, a Charlotte York. I don't think, spoilers, Chappell, I don't think people remember Capote Duncan, really.
I didn't know if I should put him in my notes. I was like, taking notes, and I was like, Capote Duncan, this guy, I feel like he's not going to be here long. There's only one man that popped up in this episode that I thought, okay, I obviously know he's going to pop back up because I've seen these horrible clips of him, like this lady in like a wedding dress, and she's yelling, and the other girl shows up, and she's like, no, and then that poor man, I was like, that man, what did he do to make these women so mad?
Yeah. Oh, you must be talking about Chris Noth, who plays the iconic character Mr. Big. Samantha calls him the next Donald Trump, except more handsome.
Yeah,
which is
I
like,
cursed the day you were born, is what we say to Mr. Big in that scene. Well, I'm glad you're finally exposed to it. Maybe some other people are about to be exposed to it as well because it's on Netflix. It dropped on April 1st. It's currently in, as we're recording this anyway, it's in the top 10 TV shows in the US today on Netflix.
Wow.
Clocking in at number 8. Okay. Just one spot past The Magic Prank Show.
We did it.
So we're on the right side of history here at this point, but it is part of a content sharing deal that was a licensing deal that was struck between HBO and Netflix not terribly long ago, last summer, I think. Band of Brothers is on Netflix, 6 Feet Under's on Netflix, and now Sex and the City is on Netflix. And if you Google why is Sex and the City on Netflix, the results are great. Like all of the headlines are about Gen Z. The Guardian has New York Post says Sex and the City is back, and Gen Z isn't going to be able to handle it. Elle has the headline: Sex and the City has landed on Netflix, but what will Gen Z think? And The Guardian has Sex and the City is on Netflix. Perfect. Gen Z are a bunch of Charlottes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Chappell? What does it mean to be a Charlotte based on your experience of the first episode of Sex and the City?
I don't know. Like, are they romantics? Are they trying to hold on to the idea that, they're like, women shouldn't be out here having sex like men. Men shouldn't even be out here having sex like men. They should be falling in love and all those things. And then you should definitely share a cab with that person as you drop them off to go have sex like men with someone else. Yeah. I don't know what they're getting at. I'm older than Gen Z. I really am. I promise. And I can handle this. I don't know what the divide is to why these younger adults should not be able to.
Emily, is Gen Z just a bunch of Charlottes?
I don't know enough Gen Z to really make an educated guess. Even
that is the oldest shit I've ever heard.
Oh, relax.
Yeah.
I don't know any 25-year-olds.
Yeah, come on.
I mean, I know a few of them. Okay, maybe they would watch this and be like, "Why am I watching my mother?" Because that is the age group of their parents. If you're thinking about it.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to handle that. And Charlotte can be a bit of a prude. So maybe there's going to be a little bit of like
level.
Yeah, maybe it's going to be like, Mom, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Whereas like these women in relation to us are only like, I mean, they could have been our moms if they were teenage mothers, I guess. Mm-hmm. But like it's
there are cool aunts.
Yes, that's right. Our cool aunts having sex in the city. Like not something you really want to picture your aunt doing, but you know what?
No.
We're here. So I don't know. I think it is interesting to think about it from the perspective of it being 25 years old and all of the things that I don't think aged particularly well in this episode as like the, introductory episode for the entire series. I will say, Chappell, that like if you were freaked out about them breaking the third wall in the episode, that doesn't keep going. That was like sort of a thing where they were like, oh no, this is really uncomfortable. We're going to stop doing
pilotitis all over this episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do have a question about that too. Okay. So,
yeah.
At the end of it, I felt this felt very like a noir film, like a detective agency where someone walks in and is like, yeah, there she was. She came in at the middle of the night and like she and I was like, is that how the whole thing is written? Like Carrie's like some desktop reporter, and he's like, and then Mr. Big darkened my doorway that night, and he's like, I need help, and it's like she felt like Dick Tracy or something like that. I was like, lady,
it's very like this is like sort of like the last moment where it was socially acceptable to have like a sexy saxophone jazz like background,
exactly.
like that. Yeah, that's gone.
Like,
that is done.
We're not allowed to have sexy jazz anymore.
Listen, I'm sure there's going to be a resurgence. Riffs. Yeah, there's going to be a resurgence of saxophone in some capacity.
How long do we have to wait for that?
I don't know. It probably circles back around. It might be like the eclipse. We only see one every couple of like decades or something.
Do we have to wait till like the 40s and then the sax is back? Sax in the city?
Sax is back. Sax in the city.
Yeah. I don't know.
That sax riff is so noticeable though. Like as somebody who's never seen the show, this was a huge ass show where people were talking about it all the time. There are always clips being played. That song started playing. I said, "Oh, that's what that song is." I like the theme song. For some reason, it's just I could have sang that theme song without knowing where it was from. If you played it for me, I'm like, "Yep, definitely know that. It's from TV."
Yep.
Yeah. Emily Fox and I were today years old when we learned that the composer of the Sex and the City theme song shares a first name with one of our cats. It's Douglas J. Cuomo is the composer of the Sex and the City theme song. And Emily rightly observes that at least on the internet, like he really has one headshot and it's just like him in his best hat.
It's awful. It's awful. What kind of hat is that, Emily?
Yeah. I don't know. It's like a bowler hat. Like
all it's missing like are the flaps. It just needs the flaps in the back. And then we're
I think really it should be like, is there any sort of icon that you associate a podcast with for you guys? Like that we could put it on, like, and have this just be your photo? Is it Douglas J. Cuomo?
I don't know if like the hat really like fits on the Nothing But Netflix icon, Chappell.
But no, like,
it doesn't go here.
Yeah, it's worth trying to fit it in because everyone's got to see what I just texted you, Josh. I mean, it's very good.
All right, what did Emily just text me?
Yeah. I maybe we put it in the chat or like
the show notes.
Yeah,
I'll pass this along. Really, what it is it's just Douglas J. Cuomo like taking he
looks like he might be lifting his hat off, but not quite. Like
he has this black bowler hat. He looks super, super satisfied. Chappell, I'm going to text this to you. This is the text chain.
That's because he's rolling in all that Sex in the City cash. And how much money did he make to like do this?
I'll put Emily on the text thread too.
Okay, cool.
So, now we all just have each other's numbers here. But this is important. This is what this gentleman is looking like, and he's like kind of like he's like breathing a big sigh of relief.
Yeah,
he looked like and as he should, because like that man was like, I have an idea.
Yeah.
I have a vision.
That vision is Carrie on the street getting, splashed by a bus going by of her own like picture. You know what I mean? Like that's what he saw. That's what he felt.
It's like Tired, Mambo number 5, Wired, Mambo number 69. Let's go. Sex and the City. God. And he busts out this like salsa dance type theme song. That is indeed iconic. And we do have you've been playing around with the Sex and the City theme song on your phone all morning.
Yeah. Well, I just really wanted to find the Fergie version that she samples when she's in the first movie. And then she's like, Fergalicious. Like she just like goes off and she's like, Gucci Prada. And you're like, oh my God.
I believe that's Labels Are Love.
Thank you so
Fergie,
much for
Stacey Ferguson.
You are correct. You are correct. And so I put out into the ether a conjecture of mine. Do you think anyone listened to that Fergie song beyond the film? Do you think anyone was like, put this on? we're
Chappell
going to
listens
the
to it a
outlets.
lot.
We're gonna buy that Gucci Prada. Like, no, no.
Chappell, who knew exactly what song you're talking about, have
Yes.
never seen the show. I'm like, no, nobody's ever heard this song
No
before.
one's ever heard this song before.
I was like,
Okay.
oh, I definitely know that song.
Okay.
Definitely not
Okay,
Chappell.
I love this. Okay, so
Yeah.
I am proven wrong immediately. This is
Well,
perfect. This is why it's
again,
important for us to talk, and we have a text thread now. We're good.
Yeah.
Look, I play a lot of music professionally. Sometimes I DJ
Yeah.
events and stuff like that. And so I've played that song before. You know what I've never played? The Dave Matthews Band, but that's neither here nor there. I just don't know who that white man is. I just know he's a white man.
I don't know who he is either, but man,
Yeah.
he dances hard like he's listening to Fergie sometimes, and it's like, I don't
Yeah,
think
you
we're- I
all
don't
should have
think we're
been
going
here
that hard.
for the unaired pre-show. We really went on a weird one with Dave Matthews. But
And
Dave Matthews,
marketing.
Dave Matthews has nothing to do with Sex and the City other than being a Mr. Big in his own
Don't you
right.
think he would have made a great guest star on this though? Because you would have been like, "What is going on?" Because there are musician guest stars on this series. You know, there's a John Bon Jovi moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of random people that kind of like come
just
in and
Bon
out.
Jovi. Bon Jovi's on here a lot though. He's coming back. It's really weird.
Yeah. But Capote Duncan, I was gonna try to like make a whole joke about how he's like a very important character that we have to pay attention to, but we already myth busted that very quickly. So I'm done. I have nothing left.
All right, let's talk through very quickly. Why don't we summarize the first episode of Sex and the City, and then we can take it apart. Wikipedia provides a very helpful synopsis of season 1, episode 1, Sex and the City, directed by Susan Seidelman, written by series creator Darren Star.
Oh, Darren. Been around since day one.
And it originally aired on my brother's birthday, June 6th. 1998.
There you
Dox
go.
him accordingly. This is how
you want to put his social security number in here too. Just really help somebody out.
Yes. All right. So this is the description according to Wikipedia. An anecdote about Elizabeth, played by 24's very own Sarah Winter, typifies how problematic it is for successful New York women to find a good man. Next, at a birthday party for 30-something Miranda, Carrie and her friends vow to stop worrying about finding the quote-unquote perfect male and start having sex quote-unquote like men. Carrie has several encounters with tycoon heartthrob Mr. Big. Miranda starts dating nice guy Skipper Johnston. I look forward to talking about Skip. Charlotte goes on a date with Capote Duncan, played by 24's very own Jeffrey Nordling. But when she tells him she won't have sex with him, he goes to a club and winds up going home with Samantha. The songs that played in this episode are A Martini for Mancini by Joey Altruda and Moochie's Jag Mark II by Joey Altruda. Have you ever played either of those at your shows, Chappell?
No, not at all.
Have we thought about Googling Joey Altruda and seeing what
Emily,
like in his headshot?
Sounds like you've got an assignment here on the
I'll
podcast.
be right here. Yep, I'm doing a little bit of work.
I'll be right back. Aside from the 4 main characters, Big, played by not 24's very own Chris Noth, is the only character to appear in both the pilot show and the series finale, An American Girl in Paris, Part 2. Mr. Big's nickname is created by Carrie. His real name is jokingly covered up throughout the series run and remains unknown until I'll redact that part. That's a spoiler here on the Wikipedia page.
All right.
So there you go. That is the quick plot synopsis. But I don't think Chappell really does justice to what unfolds across this 30-minute pilot.
Yeah, I was so surprised to see that this show was only 30 minutes long. I don't know. I'm so
Did you think it was an hour?
Yeah, I'm so used to now like the hour-long drama shows that we get to where I was like, wait, this is only 30 minutes. That should be fun. And so I watched it. And yeah, I think this doesn't do it justice at all because the characters really make the show. You know, like the storyline is fine. You know, it's fine. But I think that, you know, even through one episode, I'm very invested in what these women have going on. I'm like, all right, let's hear them out. You know,
Okay. let's
Go ahead.
let's go through this based on your level of investment in the girls.
I like this.
Okay, the girls.
Because
Okay,
I think we can do some initial Chappell rankings of the 4 Sex and the City ladies.
Yeah,
so let's go.
yeah.
Let's go number 4, who you're least invested in.
Charlotte.
Oh man,
correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
Gen Z,
Talk me through it.
according to these articles, Gen Z is going to hate Charlotte because she takes herself too seriously, right?
Yeah.
And I think that if we're looking at the 4 women of them, in this episode, she does feel like she takes herself very seriously. Miranda also takes herself very seriously as well, but we haven't gotten there yet. But I think that of the 4 of them, she seemed the least interested, maybe the most normal. I can't tell.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair assumption.
Kristen Davis as Charlotte York. Emily, your thoughts on Charlotte?
I mean,
are the rankings lining up?
I'm not surprised based on your initial read of the characters in this particular episode. I think that makes total sense. Because she's playing it by the rules and she's very sort of traditional and doesn't understand the nuance or maybe everybody kind of playing along and being like, oh, I could act like a man and sleep around and blah, blah, blah. And she's not even willing to entertain that as an idea or an alternative. She's just sort of no, I play this, straight and narrow and why didn't it work out? So she kind of doesn't understand the humor behind it or kind of let loose the way that everybody else does to varying degrees. I agree with you about Miranda too. But yeah, I think that's a fair read of the situation.
Yeah. Do you feel bad for her at the end of the episode? She goes out on a date with Capote Duncan?
Yeah.
Is this a real name? Capote Duncan?
No, this is awful. This is an awful name. Awful name.
It's so bad. It's so bad. It feels like something we would make up. That wouldn't be taken seriously. It feels
Capote
like a joke
Duncan
name.
ride motorcycles, Emily?
We're not in Maine, so I can't say this.
Emily likes to name motorcyclists she sees on the highway. She likes to give them names.
Yeah, as they go by. Yeah.
If Capote Johnston is driving the motorcycle, right? If he's in the motorcycle seat, then Skipper Johnston is in the little bitch car.
Oh, agreed. I was like, Skipper's last name is Johnston. Why can't it just be Johnson? Why do we have a T in there?
Into the sidecar, Emily.
Absolutely. I agree.
Absolutely.
Sidecar.
Awful name.
Yeah, Charlotte goes on the date with Capote Duncan, and then she's like, I don't really want to do it. He's like, that's totally fine. And I respect that. And then he puts her in a taxi, and then he hops in the taxi and says to her, I just really got to get laid. Emily, is it so hard to find a taxi cab in New York that Capote had to hop into the back of the car with Charlotte?
I think it was rude.
Was it different 25 years ago?
Okay, so we didn't have Uber, Lyft, etc. You couldn't just, summon a cab on your app. So there were yellow cabs. That was it. There does appear to be a shortage of yellow cabs in this particular episode, which is interesting. But I think maybe he could have, put her in a cab, sent her on her way, and then waited 2 minutes for another one to come upstream. It's not that hard to get a cab, especially when we're considering the location of where everybody is in this series. For the most part, it is located where everybody lives is generally in Chelsea and or the Upper East Side. Okay. That's where Carrie lives. Carrie lives her entire life on the Upper East Side. Samantha ends up getting a place in the meatpacking district later. I think we don't really know where Miranda is, but yeah, exactly. Miranda, I think, stays on the Upper East Side too until she moves inevitably to Brooklyn, which is a whole thing and really stupid because they make fun of Brooklyn, and Brooklyn is awesome and great. And she got a good deal on that brownstone, and I'm sure it is appreciated beyond belief at this point. So anyway, I don't feel bad for her. But generally speaking, they are in prime territory to get a yellow cab, no problem. Any time of the day, no problem.
So Capote Duncan is trash, is what we're saying.
He's trash, but we kind of knew that going into it, right? Yeah. Charlotte had a great time with him. He seems to be, doing all of the right things, but we learn at the beginning of the episode that he is an eternal bachelor and definitely plays the field on a regular basis. So him going out to find somebody else because Charlotte didn't work out is not the biggest surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it hard to hail a cab now? If you went out on the street corner, taxi, does that still happen?
Yeah, because I run out and yell it. That's the other thing in this. So she's like, taxi.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing.
Yeah.
People
no one yells it.
No, people don't understand that you have to bellow taxi.
Right.
No
this
one
is
does
how
that.
you know it's a true New York show. They go
Okay,
taxi
you're
because
right.
like within the vehicle with the windows up and everything, the driver of the taxi can hear the shouting of the word taxi, and then they
So
come to you.
I will say if I am in Manhattan getting a yellow cab, unless they are changing over shift time, which is like late afternoon, and or if it's really rainy out, it is difficult to get a yellow cab. But that doesn't mean they're not on the streets. It just means that like they're already, they've got somebody. In
Fox,
Brooklyn,
what's up with the green cabs?
the green cabs go interborough. That is like done specifically to be like, we go everywhere. But that's sort of like a moot point at this point because
The
the
yellow
yellow
cabs go
cabs will take you
everywhere, too.
everywhere now.
Yeah.
But that used to be not the case. Yellow cabs used to get really angry with you if you jumped in, and they had to legally take you where you need to go once you sit down in that seat.
Yeah.
But you sit down in that seat and you say, oh, I'm going to go to Queens or I'm going to go to Brooklyn. They would get furious with you.
They can't legally kick you out after you say that, but they
No,
will
no.
harumph hard.
Yeah, they'll harumph hard, or they used to.
Yeah.
That's when Lyft and Uber kind of came in and changed the playing field totally. And like it became a scarcity for yellow cabs to even get people. So now we're sort of seeing a resurgence and like this whole thing. But anyway, what I'm saying is if you live in Manhattan now versus 25 years ago, getting a yellow cab was not that hard to do.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, Charlotte and Capote Duncan, they're not going to do it. And Capote Duncan will go and have sex with Samantha instead. So
yeah,
good for Samantha. Okay, so Charlotte at the back of the pack. Who comes next, Chappell?
All right, this might be a controversial take because I'm not watching this in 1998. So right. I've lived a lot of life, and these people who were watching this at first, who were very aghast at what I'm about to say, they had not experienced what I've experienced. I think Samantha goes here. I do.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Love this. Come in spicy, Chappell. Let's get it.
This is spicy.
Get her.
Again, I was around back then. I know that it was like, oh my God, she's doing it like a man. This woman, she's like, oh my God, is she a harlot? Is she a trailblazer? What is she? And I was like, she's a lady. This lady seems like she wants to have sex. Congratulations. Yeah. Again, I get the experience of 25 years of learning that these things can happen, and that, society's evolving on the way they're looking at women. But back in the day, I knew this was a hot topic. I knew like it was scandalous to be the Samantha. But for me, there's not much to her. She's just like a lady who wants to have some sex.
She doesn't have a ton to do in this episode, and I think that that's part of it too. It's sort of like we introduce her as this like very, sort of salacious character that like does what she wants and is like her own boss and like blah, blah, blah. But like she doesn't really have a storyline beyond that. She's just sort of like, yeah, having sex is great. And I'm going to do it a few times in this episode.
And that's what people who have sex a lot say. They're like, having sex is great. And I'm going to do it a lot.
And I'm going to do it a lot in this episode. But I do think that that's one of the hooks for people in 1998 is that, you get Carrie telling this story, but when they're talking about, oh, well, men are like this and women are like this. And then they say, we have this one woman. Now, you might not have heard about her. It's a specific breed of woman called Samantha. And people are like, tell me more about this lady. I have to see the next episode to see if she has more sex. Because she had sex with multiple partners and still be a woman. Let's find out. I feel like that was the 1998 commentary that I saw.
Maybe that's what Gen Z can't handle. I don't know about this.
This lady's having sex. This feels wrong.
Not on my watch.
Not on my watch.
I think historically, Samantha has been like sort of like remembered as like the iconic character from Sex and the City. I think that actually is still absolutely true. Like I think if there's like an iconic character from Sex and the City, it's Samantha. On our most recent rewatch, Samantha ranked very close to the last for me as well. And that was on the whole. She has a couple of moments along the way.
Dirty martini, dirty bastard.
Well, that's pretty good. That's a great moment.
I don't know what that means, but I like it.
Yeah, that's like one of her most iconic lines.
In some of the ways in which, like some of the moments where this show holds up the worst, Samantha is like right at the center of that stuff.
Yeah.
So she could be like sort of like the queen of cringe. But
but
this
is it
first
her
episode
fault,
is just like having sex,
or is it how they wrote her?
Oh, it's obviously it's always how they write them,
and it's also a big component as to why she didn't return for In Just Like That. Because
Kim Cattrall does not like the late stage writing of Samantha, and she rebelled.
Yeah. So she never returned. I mean, she actually was in 1.5 episodes or something like that. most recent season. But yeah, there was like a huge falling out with her and the rest of the castmates. She refused to come back. And, she, I think rightfully so, was like, yeah, you guys wrote me into like awful scenarios that like never got produced into anything. And like, I just don't want to take that anymore. And I think that that's totally fair, especially if you're seen as this one iconic character throughout most of your career. Like, nobody's talking about a lot of the other things that she's done as an actor. So like, I understand probably wanting to keep that at bay and maybe wanting to move on and do something else and not just continually deal with that. But
what else has she done, Emily?
Yeah.
Like, what are the other things?
She's done some
mean,
stuff.
she was in some like movies in like the 80s.
She's like, she did things.
She's been in films before.
She's been in film.
And
yeah.
movies.
She
on screen.
She came out with a jazz album with her now ex-husband.
What?
Wait, really?
Where she scats.
Was it Sax in the City?
No, it wasn't. But
that's a big mistake.
Yeah, she missed the mark with that one. First of all, Kim Cattrall sounds like that is the name of a jazz musician. So she found the career that was calling her. But yeah, I couldn't tell you anything else about this woman except for that she was on Sex and the City. So you're right. I think that if that is what you were, if that is your namesake essentially, like you walking around, people don't even remember your real name because they've been calling you Samantha your whole life.
Right.
I think that you could ask a little bit more for the writing, and then also be like, I don't want to do this anymore.
You could be the female lead in Big Trouble in Little China. You could be the female lead in the original Police Academy. But the second you become Samantha Jones, that's who you are forever.
That's who you are. Yeah.
And just like that.
And just like that.
And just like that.
Kim Cattrall became a sex icon forever, which is what I'm aspiring towards with my career as well. Okay, we've got, no
Sorry,
bon voyage, no wishing me luck or anything.
Bam! Bam, bam,
yeah, we're getting Ants Marching going, and then this is really happening.
No, we're not. We're not going to play Ants Marching. I'm so sorry. There's no Dave Matthews on this podcast other than us mentioning Dave
okay,
Matthews.
post-production, put in Ants Marching. No, we don't have that capability.
We don't have it.
All right, Chappell, so that's 2 down. Charlotte in the back. Samantha, number 3. Who do we got in the second place spot, and therefore revealing who's number 1?
Now it's time for the Miranda conversation, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would just be it'd be too cute to be like, and then Carrie. We get it, Chappell. You've never seen the show, but for Miranda, I think I'm very interested in what happens to this woman, right? Because we know in episode 1, she seems like she's very much closed off to a lot of experiences, a lot of people. She's like, I see the world a certain way, and she's blocking a lot of her blessings potentially. This Skipper Johnston has a horrible name, but he seems like a nice guy. But nice might be too bad for her. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking, how do we get her to happiness? What is the road to like getting Miranda Hobbs into a place where she too has found sex and the city, and also maybe romance and other things? So that's why I was like, I would like to see more of this because she's interesting. I think there's a lot more to her than what was presented about, the Samantha character in episode 1.
Yeah. For the people who are only listening to the audio version of this podcast and are missing out on the video version of this podcast, you will not notice. And even if you are watching the video version, you may not know.
You might not know. Yeah.
That Emily Fox is wearing a matching. Are you wearing the pants too?
I'm not wearing the pants today.
Okay.
No.
She's got a matching shirt, sweatshirt, and pants that are emblazoned with iconic
scenes of Miranda's life
imagery of Miranda Hobbs.
If you could see a little closer, Chappell, actually, we would have some answers to your questions.
Yeah,
my mouth is wide open right now. I'm like, what?
Emily's shirt is covered in Miranda spoilers.
Yeah, and this is a wonderful sweatshirt, and I do have the combo pants by the designer Rachel Antonoff, who does a lot of iconic work like this. She also has a Sopranos version. Not brought to you by Rachel Antonoff, although I wish she would. That would be great. Cool. But yeah, this is a sweatsuit outfit that came out maybe like a year ago at this point, and it's scenes of Miranda's life. I do want to tell you that Skippy is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the nice guy sort of parallel that we see throughout a lot of Miranda's trysts.
Dating life.
Yeah. But she's going to jump through a hell of a lot more hoops than that by the time we get to And Just Like That. There's just so much that's occurred in her life. And I certainly don't want to put any spoilers out there for you. But Yeah, she's a
There's
tough
like
bitch.
a War and Peace size dissertation to be done about Miranda. Like,
I could teach an entire class about it. I think.
Yeah.
There's
I think
just so
Miranda
much there.
is a whole course. Yeah.
She's a fascinating character in a lot of ways. I think she's iconic in the show for a lot of different reasons for a lot of different people, which is really interesting. I think, when you do go around the room, I'm a Samantha, I'm a Charlotte, I'm a Miranda. Like, I'm a Miranda, like, really took off. There are a lot of people that were like, oh, I'm Miranda. I get shit done. Like, I'm a boss. Like, I take care of things.
You're
like,
a serious person.
Yeah, you're a serious person.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's iconic. She's great. I think putting her in the second place is great. I think that's smart, a smart move on your part for sure. And we're gonna see, where this takes her. But
are you down with Skip? Do you like Skipper? Skipper Johnston in the sidecar? How we feel about Skip?
I want to feel great things about Skipper Johnston, but also the show leads us to believe that he's like, I'm a nice guy, but I don't want people to think I'm nice because women don't like nice guys. Again, very 1998 of just like, no, if I'm too nice, these women won't take me seriously. Meanwhile, he gets hooked up with somebody who her friend says, she will not like you because you're nice. Now go have fun. If we immediately see what that looks like. I don't know. Skipper Johnston seems like an interesting character. I don't know how long we get Skipper Johnston. I don't know if he's like a Capote type or more like a Mr. Big where he's around for a lot longer.
Yeah, I would say he's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, there's like I don't think that like the spectrum here is like I guess maybe the spectrum is like Capote to Big. Like, where are you on the scale of like how involved in Sex and the City you are? I do think Capote is maybe around for like a couple episodes.
Really?
I think so.
Well, we do see this actually with like the early casting choices. Sometimes people that they cast in season 1 magically reappear in like season 3 and they're a totally different character. And you're like, you guys, there are more than like 20 men that are willing to take their shirts off for this show. Like, we could go a little deeper into the casting world. Like, there are plenty of struggling actors in New York that would have been very happy to have been the lead guy for like 1 or 2 episodes.
What's your memory, Emily, of how much how much male nudes do we get in Sex and the City?
Barely anything.
It's like a decent amount in the first movie, but I don't remember much in the show.
Is it just like man butt?
Yeah, it's a lot of butt.
it's butt. That's it. That's it.
There's one like sort of like important moment of hanging dong in the first movie.
Oh yeah, there is actually. Yeah,
that happens, but
that's
like,
the closest you ever get, which is
fun pretty close.
About. Yeah,
yeah.
So
it's disappointing.
In your journey, Chappell, of not watching Sex and the City but being like up against it. Culturally, like you've heard about it. You've seen scenes. You've seen the scene of a man at a wedding getting yelled at and flowers.
No.
Yeah, you've seen that, which is incredible to me still. In your travels, have you ever heard of a guy named Steve?
No, I don't know any Steve. There's a Steve.
We never heard of a guy named Steve who goes, Miranda. You've never heard that before?
No, I don't know who this person is, but I'm sure I'm going to find out.
Oh, is that a promise that you're going to keep going? Are you going to keep watching?
I might read the wiki.
That is fair.
It is a shame that Steve's not here in this episode. I would have loved to talk about Steve more.
I get the vibe from Skipper that he's going to be around for a while. I just know that, like, I feel like that's why Miranda is so compelling, because it's like, yeah, you go find this guy who her friend says she's not going to like, and then you stick her with this guy and then watch them date. I'm like, well, why would you do that to that person? It's like, it doesn't seem like that's going to work out. And so I'm like, but that's probably what's going to happen. So I'm ready, because by the end of the episode, they're kissing. And I was like, yep, she's got her boyfriend. And it's like, but why? Why this guy? Why him?
Really good question. I think that's a very good question. Poor Skipper. Okay, right, so this means you're at Carrie.
Yeah, we're at Carrie. We're at Carrie. Number 1. Let's talk through Carrie Bradshaw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will say this. Carrie is the character of all 4 of them I know the least about. All I know about Carrie is that she was in a wedding dress and some lady was yelling, no, no. And I know that Carrie writes us like, she's kind of like the Gossip Girl of this. She's like writing and narrating it. and hailing cabs and fashionable. But that's it. That's all I know. I know nothing about this woman. I could tell you more about Miranda, Charlotte, and Samantha than I can about Carrie Bradshaw.
Yeah. So the show is based on Candace Bushnell, right? Emily, who is like the real life Carrie Bradshaw, who wrote these columns.
We're led to believe that, basically, yeah.
Sure, wrote these columns, show gets made, Carrie is sort of the surrogate for that, and it's, we need to have like someone with some star power leading the show. It's Sarah Jessica Parker, and I think that the things that you've observed are mostly what she's known for, with a couple of additions. It's like, so it's the fashion, she writes the column, she's the narrator. The additions are, she has like what Batman has with a rogues gallery of villains, Carrie's going to have with a rogues gallery of men in her life. Like her boyfriend rogues gallery, they should all be locked up as far
They're
as
all
I'm
terrible.
concerned. She has like very bad taste in men, and it's going to be like most of the driving force of the show. And then the other thing is that like she sometimes is just trash. Carrie Bradshaw is just like makes life decisions that are like ruthless for herself and the people around her. And I don't believe, Emily, she gets called out enough for this in the discourse.
Yeah, I mean, she's written as this character that is like, very trendy and sort of like flittering all around, like, and can kind of like go through all these different levels of society and knows everybody, and but is still, very much like, oh, me, like I'm the person that we're doing an event. Okay, I'm a little nervous. So like here I'm running in my Manolos, and it's sort of like, you write a column. How the hell do you afford Manolos? And we do say in this episode that the Manolos are $400. I mean, inflation aside, we're talking thousands of dollars here. And
she gets comps. She's getting comps. Yeah, she's getting hookup discounts. She's getting comps. She's a journalist. She's getting payola.
She lives in a tiny apartment on the Upper East Side, which is very cute. She keeps sweaters in her stove because she doesn't cook. And she's always had a full-size bed. Like, it's not even a queen. I'm like, no. Like you need a king size. Like if you're going to act like this, like maybe buy a few less shoes and get a bigger mattress. Like this makes zero sense to me. There are all these like small things that you don't really understand. Like you never ever meet a relative of hers. Like you don't know anything about her parents, a sibling, a distant cousin that might visit for the weekend, like nothing. There is no interpersonal stuff beyond her friends that we have already talked about. Yeah. So I find that to be very strange. I don't love that. I'm just like, we've been talking about this woman for 25 years and we don't even know what her mom's name is. Like,
do we want to make it up?
Okay. Is Carrie short for anything, or is it just Carrie?
Probably, I think it's just Carrie in this instance.
Okay. So do you think her mom would also have a name that sounds like it's just like who names their daughter Carrie? Like what kind of
her mom is like Carol.
Yeah, Carol. And her mom's Carol. That's what I was.
It's like a derivative.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
Possibly.
Yeah. What about Dad?
Dad is
George.
Dad is maybe a George. George Bradshaw.
George and Carol Bradshaw. Yeah.
George and Carol Bradshaw. The Bradshaws.
Yeah,
the Bradshaws.
The Bradshaws.
Yeah. And like even in like her instance of getting married, and we don't need to talk beyond that. We don't see her parents there. We don't see any of that. So I think that that's kind of telling too, of like, we have this character who has like this really interesting insular world in one way, but it's like completely not realistic in another. So I always, that's how I led with this show initially when I went to college. Like I'd watch like 1 or 2 episodes when I was babysitting, right? Other than that, I was like, I don't have HBO. Like this is just going to be what it's going to be. I get to college, and my soon-to-be roommate the next year, she lived next door to me the freshman year. Okay, Josh lived on one side, and Tracy lived on the other side, which is very funny. Tracy specifically got HBO because this was the ending of the show, and she didn't want to miss it. So she was the like one kid with HBO on our floor, and I was like, oh my god, like your parents let you do that?
Money.
I was like, I mean, I'm excited that I have a TV with a remote. My parents didn't buy we didn't have a remote growing up. They were like, no, you get up and change the channel when you need to. And I was like, oh my God.
You're the remote.
Yeah, I was the remote. So I remember very specifically the ending of the entire series. Tracy came into our room afterwards and we're like, how'd it go? And she was like purple from like sobbing. That's how upset she was. Oh, it's over. Oh my God, but it was perfect. It's this whole thing. And like, I just remember being like, this show isn't very realistic, right? Like, we shouldn't be putting all our eggs in one basket here. This is a woman that writes a column and she's like, able
you were just out here hating on Tracy.
I was out here not on Tracy, but like hating on the
Carrie.
show. Yeah. 'Cause I was just like, this isn't real. Women don't like flitter around doing this. I don't wear a tutu to the bus stop or like walk down the street looking like that.
Never too late.
Now that I live in New York, I actually do see a lot of
Yeah, I was like, it didn't feel out of place like that when I was watching the little intro. I was like, okay, tutu in New York sounds about right.
Yeah, it's actually like not that crazy, but it is 25 years ago. So there are some things that I think are like, maybe not as realistic as they could have been then, and certainly not now. But that being said,
why does Carrie have the tutu?
Why not?
It's fashion.
It's fashion.
Right.
And like we know as a fact that Sarah Jessica Parker got to keep the entire wardrobe from the series once it wrapped. So she's got all of that stuff in storage somewhere. And maybe wears a few things out here and there.
Charity. What are we doing? We're just hoarding Carrie's wardrobe?
I'm sure she has done that because she seems like the type of person that would auction something off or, raise money for something. But yeah, Carrie Bradshaw. Interesting, problematic character that I think people love and also love to hate. I think that's my summary. Yeah.
I love a flawed main character. I do. I really do. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I don't know a lot about Carrie. Maybe it's like what you were saying, Emily, where there's not a lot of character development, like you said, interpersonally with her and other people. Like she doesn't have a family situation. It's just kind of like her navigating sex and the city and this group of friends. But when people were watching this show, like what type of person says like, I'm the Carrie. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think the Samanthas are very obvious, right? And the Mirandas, like you said, I'm taking care of business. But like the Carrie is like, I'm fashionable. Is that like her identifier?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, God, it's like, you don't want to admit that you're the Carrie because that kind of means you're a flake. Like you're kind of like, oh no, this is just research. And like, I can't like, I don't know. I don't have a steady boyfriend. Like that kind of sucks. Like the fashion part of it makes sense. I think it's just associating being like with fashion and like living a fabulous life in New York. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. The Venn diagram, there's overlap there with Samantha too. So it's sort of like, why wouldn't you say you're the Samantha? Like Samantha like stands in her.
Man. Yeah, she has sex like a man.
And she like stands in her truth and is like, I'm not taking shit from anyone. And like, I'm going to do whatever I want. Like if they can do it, I can do it. Yeah. Carrie's more like, oh, I'm doing research, but oh, this man's really handsome. Oh, like taxi. Like, I don't know.
Let's talk about what happens in the taxi cab for Carrie by the end of this episode. She winds up in a car with a man known only as Mr. Big.
Yes.
Chappell, first impressions of Mr. Big.
Why do they call him Mr. Big? Why, like, did we ever get a description? I mean, because
he had to be a big shot, didn't you? Like, I think it's like he's a big timer. He's like big. Yeah. He's like big man. Wow,
he's seen as a big deal. Yeah, big shot. So I think that's the assumption.
There could be another reason, but I don't know if that's the.
But she called him that from day one. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why I was like, she doesn't. I was like, you don't know. See, that's the thing. I've heard so much about this show. I'm very familiar. If you show me that man, I would say, oh, that's Mr. Big. I know that.
Right.
I always thought because this is Sex in the City and it's scandalous that Mr. Big was getting nicknamed that because of scandalous reasons. Yeah. So for her to be in episode 1 being like, so Mr. Big, I was like, wait a minute. Now, Carrie, you stop watching that man like that. Let him breathe. You know, his eyes are up here. But yeah, I don't know why they call him that. I know that he is going to be a love interest for a very long time, just based off of, you know, the things that I've seen. And then I also know that he's going to do a horrible thing at a wedding that's going to make a woman say, no, no, get away from her. No, damn it. That Charlotte lady, I'm gonna tell you right now, that's a good friend. Anybody who would like, she's not, because Charlotte, that's a little lady. That's Mr. Big. And she was like, hey, bro, straight up, you just go the other way. I ain't got time for that right now. You got to cut it out.
All I'll say is by the end of my recent rewatch of Sex in the City, Charlotte was number 1 for me.
She's dope.
I was shocked.
Look, I'm telling you, like I said, in this first episode, I was like, I gotta put Charlotte last. So they gave her almost nothing. She was so normal. But when I look, whenever I see her face, all I can see her is like this woman who's clearly distraught. She's having a bad. This man is like, "Hey, baby, I can explain that kind of energy," and she shuts it down. Hey, stop it! Damn it! No, go. Like I was like, boy, she's about to beat your ass. Get out of there! Get out of there, Mr. Big.
That's right.
So I like that's my idea. Like that is a good friend. I don't know these other women. I don't even know Carrie like that, but that's a good friend. But my question is, I feel like growing up, I always thought Mr. Big was like the guy, right? This is the guy that Carrie's supposed to be with. Like she's got all these rogues galleries, she's got all these horrible dating experiences, but it's always him. I was shocked to see that he was in episode 1 because I thought he would be like a late, like he comes in like a knight in shining armor type, maybe at the end. And then I wonder what the discourse is, because if he's in episode 1 and he makes it all the way to that iconic scene that I'm talking about, do people like Mr. Big the whole time? And then they got to that part and were like, maybe not.
So a great question, Chappell.
Yes.
And I think that the answer is complicated.
It's fraught.
It's recently complicated by some nasty allegations towards Chris Noth, some reports of some bad behavior from the actor, which came out just like that came out. And if you don't know And Just Like That spoilers, I won't be the one to spoil that show for you, but the show handled that. And so that happens. And then beyond that, over time, in the way where like you say like, okay, like, so like the top layer is okay, who are you? Are you a Samantha? Are you a Miranda? Are you a Charlotte? Are you a Carrie? Underneath that layer is like, are you a Big? Are you an Aiden? And then, like, if you're a Burger, what the hell is wrong with you?
There's nobody that says that.
When I was uneducated on it, I said a Burger because I like Ron Livingston, but he's trash. He's really trash. Or are you the Russian? Is another. So like, there's like then like you sort of like get into like which of Carrie's boyfriends, choose your fighter. I think is like another layer. The layer underneath
I like that game.
The layer underneath that is like, okay, so what do you think of what's Kyle MacLachlan's character? Trey McDougal. Are you a Trey? Are you a Steve? Miranda?
No, there's a justice layer. Okay, this is what it's called. It's a justice layer. So justice for Steve, justice for Trey.
Harry's justice for Trey
fine.
Is controversial, but you got to rewatch the show. He's better than you
rewatch
remember.
it. It's very interesting.
His mom sucks though.
Yeah, Harry's just great. Harry is sort of like the cherry on top. We don't really need to go after him.
So the point being that like there are like fiefdoms surrounding the various men of Sex and the City as well. So like I don't think that there's any one man other than Steve who probably like everybody is like that guy, that's my guy. There's like no consensus guy, and probably not even Steve. Though the people who are against Steve should not identify themselves is all.
I will say, it's almost like neighborhoods in New York. What's your favorite?
Sure.
Where do we feel like we belong? That's sort of how I equate it with the relationships on this show. Like, are you a Big or are you an Aiden? Aiden had a house upstate. Carrie didn't like it very much. She got really freaked out by the squirrels and all that stuff. There's a lot of stuff there. I don't know. It's complicated. Very complicated.
Very complicated.
I'm definitely reading the wiki because I'm nosy, and I want to take the BuzzFeed quizzes. Which Sex and the City man are you though? Like I know which woman I am. Like I told you, I guess
this is a great question.
Yeah, but I want to know which of these boyfriends I am. Like I know there's got to be a Sporkle or a BuzzFeed quiz out there that'll tell me if I'm a Steve.
Sure. I'm also curious about this for myself. So I think I end up being a Harry would be my guess.
I mean, you might be a Steve. Emily. I don't know.
Emily. Yeah.
Either one is a good choice.
I love your Miranda shirt. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So you're saying, Chappell, you're not going to watch all of Sex and the City. You're not about to embark.
This didn't sell you.
You're not about to embark upon a podcast rewatch. Sex daily is not a thing we're going to be doing.
It would only make sense to do it daily because there's so many episodes of the show, and you would want to get this done, this year or whatever before I die. And so yeah, I mean, there's a lot to cover in the Sex and the City universe.
Yeah.
But no, I don't see myself doing that.
Absolutely.
I mean, I would have to dedicate a lot of time, and then there would be a lot of people yelling at me about my wrong opinions about how the show was written in 1998. You're watching it with a 2024 lens.
Right.
I know,
But
that's
that's
the point.
important.
Yeah.
I think. So because there's a lot of stuff that doesn't age well in this show where you're like, whoa, red flag. And then there's other stuff where you're like, oh man, I can't believe this is aged and it's very funny still. But maybe
Like
that's
the
what's
hair,
getting-
Emily.
Sex and the City is for me like a problematic fave.
Yeah.
Like Sex and the City is like toxic as hell, and I love it. And like it's messy. It's messy. It makes bad decisions. It says stuff that is like unforgivable, and you have to apologize for that. And even after you apologize, I will never forget that you said that. But at the end of the day, I'm like, but you're my friend for life, and like, I'm like, we're kind of stuck together. Like Sex and the City of my TV shows is also like, I don't talk about it a lot on podcasts and stuff. I'll try to sneak in some Miranda and Steve stuff where I can, but I really do have a very soft spot in my heart for this show. And getting to expose you to it at all, Chappell, has been a highlight of my time as a podcaster. For 1 hour only, we got to talk about Sex and the City.
No, I thank you so much, because if you had not suggested this, there's no world where I would have ever watched this show. It's the same exact thing with Seinfeld. I talked about it with Rob and Akiva, and they were like, "So Chappell, you've never seen?" I was like, "Nope." They're like, "So you've never seen one episode?" I was like, "Maybe once," but I was like, "No, I couldn't tell you anything about the characters." I was like, "But all I know is all those people need to be arrested. Like, if they don't end up in jail, this show is flawed." And apparently that was a hot take or something, because Akiva was aghast. But anyway, I don't have any big predictions about this show. I just know that, like, from what I could tell, it is a fun watch. I watched the first episode, and I was tempted to see what happens next. And so I understand why it was so compelling, because it's written very fun. I liked it.
Yeah,
I do think like you could probably read the Wikipedia and find out everything that happens, and still just like watch the show and like enjoy it just as much. I think like I don't think it's like a super spoilery show personally.
No, and it does follow the format of having so many episodes, right? Maybe that's why Gen Z won't like it. Like there's just like, why isn't this like just like 6 episodes and we're done for the season of like good content in like an hour long? But I think that's the charm of it too, is like it's very bingeable. You can watch so much of it at once if you really want to. That was sort of what I started doing when I would watch it on E! And reruns, where I was just like, oh my God, I just lost my Sunday afternoon doing this. But like, it was a decent Sunday, no problems, no complaints.
Yeah.
But I do think, it's very silly to watch the first episode. Like, her turning to the camera and being like, and that's why, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh God, I forgot how horrible this is. Thank God they didn't keep going with this. So bad.
Sex and the City streaming now in its entirety on Netflix. You ready, Gen Z? You ready for this, you bunch of Charlottes? You report back to us and let us know how you enjoyed or did not enjoy Sex and the City. Emily Fox, thank you for lending your expertise to the Nothing But Netflix podcast.
Thank you both for having me. This was really fun.
You can find Emily on the internet at Emilet, like an omelet with an E, largely on the gram, posting pictures of food that you cook for people on the Upper East Side.
Yeah, for the most part, yes.
You cook for Carrie. Emily cooks
I mean, Candace Bushnell, I tend to be in your neighborhood. Let me know.
Call us. Let us know. Chappell at RHAP Kickback. What's up on the kickback?
A lot of stuff going on. Sasha and I just started watching a show called Summer House Martha's Vineyard. And so we're going to be covering that every other week. We're going to drop a podcast to cover 2 episodes of Summer House Martha Vineyard until I get tired of it. And so check that out with me and Sasha over on Recap Kickback. Still covering Abbott Elementary with Gia over there as well. We did a Beyonce podcast recently, and it was great. We assembled the Beehive to talk about Cowboy Carter. So check that out. And this week coming up, we have our coverage of the movie Shirley, the Shirley Chisholm story on Netflix. And LaTanya Starks is joining us for that one. So, a lot of good stuff over there on recapkickback.com. Check it out and subscribe and follow at Recap Kickback wherever you get your social media and your podcast.
Nice. Chappell, I'll be here with you on Nothing But Netflix until you kick me off.
That's fun.
That's the plan right now, or until like the masses revolt and they're like, "Where's Rob?" It's like he's got other shit to do. Okay, like,
Yeah,
and I just closed a podcast and I need to talk somewhere. So I'll be here. Nothing but Netflix. What should we talk about next week, Chappell? I have some options pulled. Do you want to talk through some options?
Yes. Did you see Unlocked, a jail experience?
I just saw that actually. I haven't watched it yet. I just saw the icon for it and I was like, oh.
What is this?
Yeah.
Unlocked?
I think it drops this Wednesday. It says in Arkansas detention facility, a sheriff implements a radical social experiment to grant men who are incarcerated more agency in this reality series.
This sounds intense. Do you want to watch
It's very
Unlock, a jail
No.
experiment?
I thought it was going to be fun somehow. I saw that and thought, at first glance, it reminded me of that show. It was a reality show where they were like locked in. It was like a prison break reality show. Do you remember that? Where they had to get out in like 10 minutes or something? That's what I thought this was. That's not it.
No.
A prison break reality show. Prison Break coming to Netflix in July. Let's just planting the flag right now.
That's another one of the shows, Josh. I've never seen it.
I've never seen it either.
You know who I know who loves Prison Break? I'm coming for you, Puya. We're making this happen. It's going down. Okay, so I have a few on my list. Of course, we could always go back to the Magic Prank Show if we want.
Always Magic Prank Show.
Is always waiting for us. It's in the top 10 right now. People must have something to say about it. There is this new show, Ripley, that is based on the book The Talented Mr. Ripley, which was the Matt Damon movie that I think people like. So that's an option. It's in black and white. It seems like a thriller, but I don't know. Have you ever watched White Collar? Was that part of like your Suits exposure?
No, it wasn't part of my Suits exposure. So I was a USA guy back in the day. I did Psych, I did Monk, I did, Suits.
But you didn't do White Collar.
But yeah, Burn Notice happened in White Collar. I was like, it's too much. It's too much. So I tapped out right around that time. So I've actually never seen White Collar. But when Rob and I did the Suits rewatch, a lot of people were like, oh, if you thought that was good, you got to get into all the USA shows. And I was like, that's a lot. That's a lot of shows. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's a blind spot where White Collar is as well.
So White Collar just dropped on Netflix. White Collar on the same day, April Fools, as Sex and the City and the Magic Prank Show. White Collar tucked away into the Netflix algorithm. I have also never seen White Collar. Should we change that for next week?
I think we can watch it. Yeah, I think we can watch it as long as there's nothing that is like trending or like obviously like new and popular on Netflix that we should be talking about, right?
In the week between, I think we could reserve the right for like, this is spiking. Let's watch this instead. But if nothing else happens, I think White Collar coming your way on Nothing But Netflix next week. There will be no White Collar Daily.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Sure, right.
We can read the Wikipedia on the podcast. We could just we'll just destroy that for ourselves. All right. Nothing But Netflix resumes next week. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, Nothing But Netflix, wherever you get your podcasts. Watch us on the RHAP YouTube. We're on video on this one. Hey. And that's it. I'm at Round Howard, wherever you can find me, at Recap Kickback for Chappell, at Emlet for Emily Fox. And for now, we say goodbye to Carrie, to Charlotte, to Samantha, and Miranda here on the Sex and the City coverage here on Nothing But Netflix. Until next time, everybody, take care. Bye-bye.